Suffering builds character, eh? If there is one shonen anime protagonist who truly exemplifies this meme, it's none other than our boy Yuji Itadori. He has been broken again and again and again, but somehow in some way, even if he is powerless, Yuji finds a way to keep moving forward. He is not like any other shonen anime protagonist at the moment, in the sense that the plot doesn't exactly revolve around him. If you've been active in the JJK anime community as of recent, you must have seen some memes about how he isn't even the main character. In the past, people thought that Gojo was the main character, and these past months that there have been memes about how Sukuna is actually the main character. Of course, these are just memes and they are not supposed to be taken seriously, but it's because the plot doesn't exactly revolve around Yuji that there are memes like this in the first place. Welcome back guys to another anime video, and if you're liking the content so far, please comment, like, and subscribe and share. My name is TK. Now let's get into some anime. In this video, we're going to be analyzing the evolution of Itadori Yuji. Now, at the time of the making of this video, the latest chapter is chapter 259. Choso has just died, and as the narration of this chapter goes, it is said that Itadori Yuji has always told himself that he is nothing but a cog in a machine, that he'd continue to fulfill his role as needed. He should have been able to repay his brother, who gave his life protecting him, and once, yet again, he found his convictions shaken to its roots. This is a brilliant statement, and it is perfectly encapsulating the nature of Yuji's character. The plot doesn't revolve around him. He is nothing but a cog in a machine. He tries, and he tries again and again. Through it all though, he perseveres. But even after he tries so hard and gets so far, something happens that once again shakes his convictions at their very roots. From the finger bearer to his self-sacrifice to Junpei's death, the Shibuya massacre, Nanami's death, Kusakagi's tragic face, Sukuna's binding vow, Megami's fate, Gojo's death, and now in this chapter, Choso dies after thanking him. It's kinda surreal how much the author likes to push our boy. He is not even like Luffy, and we all know how devastating it was for Luffy when he lost Ace, but here he is, standing tall. You see, what sets Yuji apart from many other shonen anime protagonists is the fact that he is relatable. He vowed to save everyone, but he has only ever lost more and more people since that promise. It's tragic really, and I totally understand why Sukuna and Urami were laughing their asses off at him in chapter 215. He is pathetic because he only has ever failed at his goal of saving people. And you know, the decline of Yuji's mental state has also become a recurring theme, especially since Shibuya. Between his resolve to have Angel get rid of him in chapter 212, Sukuna calling him pathetic in chapter 215, and the shaking of his conviction in chapter 259, Yuji's mental state is actually one of the primary themes. In the beginning, he was this charismatic, extroverted fellow who genuinely believed in his goal of saving people. Just like a clueless bird in a world full of storms, Yuji was brimming with hope. If he was your friend in real life, you'd be spamming King and Chad on all of his social media posts. Yuji is just that guy. I mean, remember Azawa from chapter 64? She was a chubby girl who used to go to the same junior high school as our boy Yuji. Though with a little bit of a growth spurt, and also because of stress from moving to Tokyo, she had an insane summer body transformation. Now I'm sure you guys also remember Yuji's words when he saw her like this. Without thinking, he referred to her as Azawa, pure king energy. Itadori Yuji is that guy. And to add on to this, let's consider the way he made Junpei and his mother laugh, or his chemistry with Kugisaki. Yuji is the kind of guy who can brighten just about anyone's day. And what makes him so exceptional is how he isn't a larger-than-life force of nature like Luffy or the progenitor of goodness like Tanjiro. At his core, he is just a normal, genuinely good person. And Jujutsu Kaisen is a brilliant representation of what would happen if such a person was thrown into the abnormal chaos of a dark shonen. Up until this point in the story, Yuji has been angered and cursed by his own powerlessness. If you look at the narrative holistically, you'd notice that every tragic death or event that has broken Yuji's spirit also happened right in front of him. He couldn't stop Mahito from transfiguring Junpei's soul. He couldn't stop Sukuna from killing all those people with his domain expansion. He couldn't do anything when Nanami died in front of him. Of course, he also couldn't do anything when Nobara Kugisaki was shot. And by shot, I mean grabbed onto by Mahito, and after that, she never got up. Still, Todo pulled up and managed to snap him out of it. And then Yuji himself also had a glaring realization about how he isn't all that different from Mahito. but overall, the theme of Yuji's powerlessness never stopped. Moving on to the culling games, Yuji could only watch as Sukuna used his body to take over Megumi. He then struggled as hard as he theoretically could to try and bring Sukuna down, but as we know, Sukuna flies away and all that's left is the pitiful, defeated expression on Yuji's face. During the Shinjuku showdown, we've seen Yuji lose Gojo and then Higuruma, and although neither of those two deaths were actually because of his own powerlessness, you know it still weighs him down. And here in chapter 259, the same kind of feeling of powerlessness momentarily weighed him down again. Yuji lost his brother right in front of him. Honestly, it's not hard to imagine what would be the response of a person like Yuji if they had to suffer the same kind of tragedies as Yuji himself. Yes, the only thing Yuji finds valuable about himself is his death. Regardless of whether the plot revolves around him or not, he still considers himself as the reason why so much bad stuff has happened. As Sukuna's vessel, he blames himself for all these tragedies. Of course, none of it is Yuji's fault. He was simply born into these circumstances, so there is no reason for him to feel responsible. However, such is the curse of being a genuinely good-willed person. He can't help it. He can't help but feel responsible. Remember the very first chapter when Yuji and Megumi were cornered by curses? He didn't think twice before swallowing Sukuna's finger. He did it impulsively, and he did it just to somehow get them out of that situation. Yep, he has had that dog in him within him before formally ever becoming a Jujutsu Sorcerer. I guess that makes sense because he is technically Sukuna's nephew in some weird roundabout way, but Yuji is still a normal person, right? He may have a strong disposition thanks to his relation to Sukuna, but he is not actually like Sukuna or Gojo. Unlike them, he could care less about all that nonsense regarding how it's lonely at the top. He just seeks to kill Sukuna one way or the other. Both inside and outside, the context of Jujutsu Kaisen, Itadori Yuji is the exception. He is a normal person who found himself as a shonen protagonist and as a Jujutsu sorcerer. However, and this is important, every time Yuji has gone to hell and back, he has also grown and evolved as both a character and as a fighter. Back in chapter 7 when Yuji's hand was cut off and he was cornered, all these thoughts like how he shouldn't have eaten that finger, his grandpa's words which told him to help people, start getting distorted in his mind. He was writhing with pain and he literally thought that he was going to die. But after he reflects on how weak he truly is, he manages to turn his negative emotions into cursed energy. And although he was genuinely fearing for his life, he also had a strong enough will to sacrifice himself in chapter 9. During the Mahito arc, Geigi Sensei was extra harsh on Yuji. He had to deal with the moral dilemma of having to kill actual living humans who have also been manipulated by Mahito's idol transfiguration. If this wasn't all, Mahito not only killed Junpei's mother, but he also killed Junpei himself. He did it right in front of Yuji. I truly believe that the psychological damage suffered by Yuji during this arc was irreversible. When Yuji was completely helpless, he asked Sukuna's help to revert Junpei back to normal. When that didn't work, he became infuriated with rage as every fiber of his being brimmed with the urge to kill Mahito. Ultimately, when both Yuji and Nanami survives this, he asks Nanami a simple question. Just what is a proper death? Before he was so fully intent on not killing a person, but now that he has killed someone, he just doesn't understand anymore. Again, it wasn't Yuji's fault that the human he killed was transfigured, right? But even so, he at least wants people to have a proper death. But what is that exactly? What is a proper death? I guess this was the point in the story where Yuji finally understood what it actually means to be a Jujutsu sorcerer. Next, there's a training arc with Todo where Yuji masters Black Flash. It's hard to believe that all of this happens in the span of a single afternoon, but yes, Yuji learns Black Flash and surpasses the level of most sorcerers. In the Death Painting arc, Yuji has to cope with the realization that both Eso and Kechizu were human brothers. For us, this is more tragic in hindsight because they were actually his brothers, but even without additional information, the event was still heartbreaking for Yuji. Plus, there's also Sukuna yapping to him about how the reason their curse incidents have escalated is his fault. Honestly, it's hard enough for Yuji as is, but when you have another person living inside of you and constantly telling you that you are responsible for all these horrible tragedies, then it is guaranteed to have everlasting consequences on your psyche. The Shibuya arc was downright abnormal. Sukuna straight up massacred a great number of people while his body, and then also had to witness Nanami's and Kugisaki's fates. It was brutal. No wonder he lost his will to do anything until Todo stepped in, which brings us to chapter 259. Right as Yuji wonders if anyone is still left, Todo enters the chat. He enters the chat and tells Yuji that everyone is most likely fine. Yuji's mind is skeptical of this information, but he consciously chooses to believe Todo. He does that and gets his mind right back into the game. By this point in the story, Yuji has attained a state of existence where his mind is fully focused on bringing about a particular outcome. He has to take care of Sukuna. And now that Sukuna is more nerfed than ever, it's the best chance they're ever going to have into finally taking him out. In a way, he is similar to when he told Mahito that they are the same. He is silent. He is not screaming. He is not visibly angry either. He just knows that what's the right course of action, and he is going to do exactly just that. Sukuna may not admit it with his own mouth, but the Yuji here is the exact opposite of the word pathetic. From now on, there will be many more interesting developments, but you bet that the next time Yuji is face to face with Megumi, he will snap him out of it there. He is going to play the same role as Todo did for him during the Shibuya arc. It's going to be a thematic progression to Yuji's ever-growing tragic character. He is going to live up to Todo's definition of the word exception and more. So what do you guys think? Come on guys, let's continue this conversation in the comment section down below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. It's always very much appreciated. Well then, with that being said, I'll see you all in the next video.
挽回千本桜影吉